Welcome to Still Growing in Grace. I'm Mike Zanker. Join me and other amazing guests as we explore and discover better, hope-filled perspectives on biblical texts and difficult themes. Prepare to expand your understanding of God's love and amazing grace. Growing in Grace Ministries Canada and Hope Fellowship, as well as Eastside Church, invite you to enjoy today's program as we dig deeper into what it means to be still growing in grace. Welcome back to Still Growing in Grace. Today's topic's going to be a little different. It's almost the topic of what we started our group recording with, because today's episode, if you guys don't realize, today is number 90 that we have recorded together, which is pretty cool. But the very first series we did was on hell. And so today we're going to dive back into that topic, piggybacking Cameron Kirk's shift to annihilationism. And so I want to kind of talk about that.
Kirk Cameron. You said
Kirk Cameron.
Unbelievable. Oh my goodness. Whoops.
No.
You know what? Yes. I'm cutting.
Okay.
No.
Fine. Okay, we'll have some fun. We'll have some fun.
Yeah,
Fine.
that's good.
Unedited humor, fine. Okay. All right. So one of you guys suggested it. I liked it because there's a number of things connected to it, and I'll talk about it in our conversation. But let's first dive into what you guys think and have seen. In the States, you're far more connected to him than I am. But let's dive in. I know Randy's excited to get going on this one. So Randy, what's your first thought?
Well,
Thanks, Mike.
right, yeah. Well, I love the idea. It was actually Fred's idea. But yeah, I'll jump in. And what I like about it is that I see annihilation, and I know some people, they go there and they stay there forever.
Annihilation?
But I see it as sort of a halfway mark between, eternal conscious torment and universalism. It's a heart softening, and you even see that in Kirk Cameron. One of the reasons he loves the idea of annihilationism is because he can keep his image of God as a good God. God's not going to torture you forever, is what he's saying. And so he feels good that God is good, and in the end, he's going to have mercy. So you see that draw toward God's goodness happening there. And no, not everybody goes in that direction. Some people, they'll stay in annihilationism, but I do see it as a stopping point between eternal conscious torment and universalism. It really was for me, although I didn't stay there very long, but I did, sort of delve into that. And, when I was in my season where things weren't, I wasn't so sure of what was out there. I spent some time in that area. Excuse me. I spent some time there, and I actually read the book that was a big influence on Kirk Cameron. This one right here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, The Fire That Consumes. He mentions that book. It's a really good book. The guy's name is Edward William Fudge. And much of his
Did you know there's a movie out about him, Randy?
Was there really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow, I'll have to look for it. But much of his argument in the argument for annihilationism counts in our argument for universalism. Much of it doesn't. And he kind of disqualifies the idea of universalism. He only spends a couple of paragraphs on universalism. And basically what he says is that, universalists do what they do because they're tired of seeing people say how God is this bad. So he understands why universalists do what they do, but he doesn't agree. That's Edward Fudge. But a whole lot of people go from that to universalism because the facts are there. If you look deeper into the history of universalism, you're going to find that it's always been there. It's got a connection all the way to the Apostle John, and and it's as viable, and in my opinion, more viable than annihilation. So I'll stop there.
Well, Cameron was in the States a TV program called Growing Pains.
Yep.
Where he was a teenager, and we watched that show with my boys when they were smaller. and he was a likable character. He's just ornery, but he was really likable kid, and it was really great to see him come and be outspoken about his faith. But he became very a very evangelical, and kind of just stated what everybody believes, and so then all of a sudden he comes out with this shift, as I think he called it, towards annihilationism. And here's what he said. He said it better fits the character of God. And then he says, instead of the eternal barbecue, and
Right.
when he said the eternal barbecue, I'm like, it's almost like he was saying to himself, how could I have ever believed this?
Right.
Yeah.
How could I have ever believed such a thing?
Mhm.
One of the things he said in his when he came out is he's actually in a podcast discussing it with his own adult son.
Wow.
Right.
And he said this: I'm always learning and always growing, and I'm open to new light. I loved that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I really did. But he took heat, guys. I mean, he took a lot of heat. Of course, he got called a heretic, and he's connected here in the States with a guy by the name of Ray Comfort.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's they've been
What an
around for a long
ironic
time.
name.
Yeah, Comfort. Yeah, not a lot of comfort in his theology, is there? But anyway, Comfort came out within days with his own, you know, rebuttal, if you will, of Cameron's position, and he took a lot of heat. But I'll give him credit; he's kind of hung in there. And now Cameron has been picked up by Chris Date and the Rethinking Hell group, which are annihilationism, conditional immortality. And I know they just recorded, I haven't watched it, with Chris and Kirk Cameron and Paul Copan and someone else, I forget. They have their roundtable discussion, all promoting the idea of annihilationism. And I know we can get into it a little bit as we go along, but that's kind of, it became a big deal. So for me here, a lot of our folks had heard about it. So I took an opportunity to address it on a Wednesday night
That's cool.
and talk about it a little bit. Yeah.
Richard.
I will also say this,
Oh.
since Randy, then I'll be done, Richard. I did not ever land in annihilationism. I jumped from eternal conscious torment to the universalist perspective. Um, I don't know why that is. I guess but I just jumped right over it.
Yeah, I'm of two minds on it. There's two ways to look at it, and I think they're both correct. In some ways, but you ever heard the old saying, the enemy of great is good? Have you ever heard that saying before?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's good. Annihilation is good in that it's better than ECT, but we need to be careful not to let it be the ceiling and not to let it be. Now I patted myself on the back. I've moved on into the deeper things of God. Well, you may have moved toward the deeper things of God, but it's but I think but my other mind on it is that there is a way to incorporate annihilationism into universalism.
Sure.
And so,
Yeah.
maybe I can touch a little bit on that, but I did these three statements one time. And this was a Facebook post. Which statement below, made by God to a prodigal soul upon physical death, sounds the most like a loving father's heart? The first one is eternal conscious torment. And this is what it says: because you have rejected me, I'm going to have to torture your cancerous soul forever and ever with no respite, reprieve, or pardon. You should have believed me. All right. So that's eternal conscious torment. So then annihilationism is, I'm going to put you out of your misery by incinerating you into nothingness. After all, they shoot horses, don't they? And that old saying, you shoot horses to put them out of their misery. That's the best we can do, is put a bullet in the head, so that they don't hurt forever. And then apocatastasis. This is what apocatastasis says. It's time to go on a spiritual walkabout, my beloved. It will be challenging. It may cause you much anguish. You may even grow in hate toward me and others until it starts to get better. Even though I know you think I'm lying right now, it will get better and you will be healed. I promise. And when it goes, the light will break through and you will see all things brand new. Let's go. Okay.
Wow.
And so, so in what way could we say that annihilationism is right? Well, because I think we can say that because fire is used over and over again about us going through the fire, the lake of fire, that's where all the corrupted natures go. But it's not us, it's the nature, the false natures we put on. There are things that are annihilated, and Corinthians talks about it. This is the great verse in Corinthians, which let's see, I had it pulled here. Yeah, according to the grace of God which is given unto me, as a wise master builder, I've laid the foundation, and another builds on it. But let every man take heed how he builds, for no other foundation can any man lay than that which is laid, which is Jesus Christ. Now, if any man build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, and stubble, every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire, and the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. If any man's work abide which he has built on, he shall receive a reward. If any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, yet so is by fire. The point being, something's getting annihilated there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, so they can grasp the annihilation part, that God is going to annihilate evil and lukewarmness and soulishness and the things that are unworthy of a pure love, pure light God. Those things are going to be annihilated by the light, but there's also going to be cure. That is a cure for not the cure is not annihilation. The cure is that we're resurrected, into his likeness, and we're rehabilitated and we're reconciled, and that we're our true selves, our innermost selves, our core selves, the selves that we were created to be. So there is an annihilation of soulishness that goes on. Soulishness is an old charismatic term, Watchman Nee, but soulishness is just those when we're given a spirit, our spirit should be leading us, right? Our spirit should be leading our soul and leading our body. But instead, self-righteousness lets your soul lead your spirit, or actually keep your spirit submerged. So soulishness, and Paul used the word soulishness, sukikos in the Greek. And it's the carnal man. He called it the carnal man in another place. So all this by way of saying there is that what gets crucifixion is a form of annihilation. So I think there's ways that we can bring annihilationism as a concept into it, and maybe lure in a good way, maybe woo is better than lure, woo people that are where he's at into a deeper understanding of that. All you got to do is to say, well, is his power, can he both annihilate and cure at the same time? Well, what if annihilation is the cure? But the way that annihilation works is by his holy fire, by the fire that, that loves, and by the fire that burns that which corrupts love, or that which obstructs love. I saw something on Facebook today. I thought it was pretty good about, I think it was just someone who was gardening who would say, I don't remove weeds and rocks. I don't command the plants to grow. I just remove the things that obstruct their growth.
Yeah.
In other words, I don't make it grow a particular way. And Randy, you know this above anybody. But I just remove the things that obstruct its
No,
growth.
he just cuts down. Randy just cuts stuff.
Anyway, okay.
So if the word lure is too strong, then how about we dig into drag? We get dragged, right? Like,
right.
Seriously, if yes, woo is nice, lured is fishing, but the dragging part, we're getting dragged into the love of God deeper and deeper. So for annihilationism, I'm a hurrah for somebody who's coming to see annihilationism as a much better replacement than eternal conscious torment, because they're getting dragged closer and closer.
Right.
But for those of us who would claim universalism as a valued concept, we're also getting dragged further than universalism, to the point where, what the heck is the doctrine all about anyway? This is about oneness. This is about loving. We're not going to fight over the doctrine's not going to be the issue. Why we're wasting so much time on those silly topics, right?
That's
Yeah.
great, man. That is
Yeah.
hot. That's a hot topic. That's great, Mike.
Well,
Praise God.
Yeah.
again,
Go ahead, Mike.
no, you go ahead.
Well, I don't see annihilationism as a gospel solution.
Correct.
It's not a gospel solution. Termination is not a gospel solution.
Yep.
And so how?
Well, that means you're
how-
questioning it, right? As soon as you start questioning it, you go, wait a minute.
Well, yeah, let's start asking some questions. So the old the way we frame it, can God bring everyone freely to Christ? Can God bring everyone freely to Christ? Can he do it? Well, the Reformed says yes. He just doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to.
That raises a big question about his love. And then, of course, the Arminian side says, well, he can't. He does everything he can. He does everything he can, but he just cannot, which begs the question, if God doesn't give you a chance after death, then how can you say he did everything he could?
Right.
I mean, you couldn't say that under those circumstances. And then how can we say that? Then here's another question. Is it possible that when God created human beings, that let's say 90% of the human beings would have rejected him? Was that possible? Is it possible that 100% could have rejected him? And how in the world would any of this be a victory?
It'd be a brutal failure.
It is a brutal failure. It's like saying, if God says, well, 30% I've annihilated everybody else, and now everybody that's alive loves me. Well, that's like somebody going in and saying, well, I won the election, and then you find out that candidate A won because he went out and annihilated everybody that voted for candidate B.
It was fixed.
You could say I won the election, but you really didn't win at all. Also, one of the key verses that annihilationists use is, don't fear him who can kill the body, but fear him who can kill both body and soul in, well, Gehenna, but hell is what it's translated. But you know what the next verse says? Verse 29.
I'm sure you're gonna tell us.
I'm going to tell you. The very next verse, he talks about, are not two sparrows sold for a penny, yet not one of them fall to the ground apart from your Father, and very hairs of your head are numbered. And then verse 31. So don't be afraid.
Right.
So how can he say in verse 28, one of the big verses for annihilationists, he's talking about fearing him, and then 2 verses later he's told we're not to fear God.
And he affirms our value of earth.
He does.
Well,
I'm made good ideas that the him there that's not capitalized is not referencing God.
Right.
yes,
Right.
and I think that's the way to read it. It is a contrast, and it does say elsewhere. Peter talks about being cautious with the devil. There's a word, phobias, which can be translated different ways. But who destroys body and soul in hell? Who's always been considered the king of hell? Satan has been. From Dante to and there's good stuff in Dante. There's a ton of good stuff in Dante. We've been misled about Dante. He is a universalist, okay? And because people only refer to the first part of the trilogy and they forget the other two parts. He has all sorts of who we would call, who many Christians would call unsaved, as up in heaven. All right. So, and everyone's on the journey, but anyway, fear him who destroys body and soul in hell. Satan, under so many structures, is considered to rule in hell. I mean, that's embedded in our consciousness. But I think that sometimes we Christians forget about that, and that hell is a construct that is satanic, that is run by satanic energies, by satanic sensibilities, by attributes that aren't God's but are the devil's, which is Dante's point. The enemies he saw writhing in hell were his enemies. Okay? And when he enters into hell, it says, abandon hope, all ye who enter here. He enters it, and he goes to the very bottom. And you know what's at the very bottom? The ruler who's ruling hell is Satan. And Satan is locked in ice, though he's frozen in ice. And he's nothing. and which is what Isaiah says. When we see Satan, we'll see this is what held the world in chains. This. And Dante goes to the center, right to the center of where Satan is, and then goes out, and all of a sudden he's up in purgatory. Okay, so this whole thing, there's so much good there. Mark Vernon, if anyone ever watches Mark Vernon, he's so wonderful. He's got so many good lectures on this. It'll blow your mind. But that verse doesn't even say, don't fear. If it meant the Lord, it would say the Lord. And it says fear him, but it doesn't identify the him.
Yeah.
So then the next one, it says, like Fred said, don't fear. Don't fear. This is a father's love. You shouldn't fear a father's love. All right. So all this by way of saying, that there's a lack of discernment. And if you have a verse, if you quote a verse to prove that kind of doctrine, and it doesn't even for sure identify who it's talking about, that's a pretty weak argument. We're trained to read things a certain way, especially scripture. We've all heard it all our lives, and we've just assumed that's been true. But if you go back and read the thing, it's inviting a contrast between the real God. All right. So anyway, those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you that he would have said, he wouldn't say fear him. He'd say fear my father.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He would have said that. Here's another, a couple of places Jesus said, it's going to be better or more bearable for Sodom than it is for you on the day. How does that work if Sodom is annihilated? How's it more bearable? If you're both annihilated, then how can one be more bearable than the other?
How can you be more annihilated?
How can you be more, put out of existence? Can you be more put out of existence?
Yeah. So again, the triggering part of this conversation was at the very start. Get me the name right.
Kirk Cameron.
Kirk Cameron. Okay, I don't want to double flub. So I've watched Kirk stuff all the time, and yes, he associated with eternal conscious torment material. So for him to come out like that, I felt great joy inside, because Rob Bell did the same thing years ago and was crucified, just utterly crucified. And the more I grow and learn, and the more people I meet that come out of the closet, so to speak, and not just from ETC to universalism, but there are stages of growth required. Not everybody is able to possibly have any bandwidth in their brain to consider like the really high, deeper stuff, when there's so much unlearning and walls they have to go through and gateways to go through, that for me, I'm looking for a merciful way so that we don't, I didn't go far enough. Well, come on. Remember our own journey. There's glimmers of light and conversations, and we with a trusted person we had a conversation with. They showed us something really cool, but we trusted them. So now we're open to even consider that topic. And then, oh my goodness, we got dragged into a deeper hunger, and our exploration went wild. Kirk's on a similar journey, and you're right. Like it's part of the way. I think there's much more coming, but what he has done, he has clearly given permission to many others in that locked-in world of not allowed to question, who've been quietly questioning, hey, if he can, I can. Now they're starting to search, and they're exploring all kinds of places quietly because they can't tell anybody. So the permission giver is what I see going on here. In the next session, we'll talk. I got more to share on annihilationism, but
Although one of the things I've seen, Mike, I agree with you. I came out and was very thankful for Kirk and what he did. But one of the things sorry, I got a phone call there.
Yep.
One of the things that's happened since he's came out is there's a pretty strong group in the United States now that are annihilationists.
Yes.
And they got their arms wrapped around him, and they pulled him in. And it's going to be
who's stronger?
Well,
the light of
certainly.
Christ can totally reach in, but to have actually reached that, I'm looking for the positive. Yeah, you're sharing a really strong hindrance to growing more. That's what I'm hearing, right?
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, I'm thrilled for the step that he's taken. I think, how do I say this? Uh, I'll just be honest. I think it's, unfortunately, in the States, it's promoted annihilationism.
Oh,
And so
okay.
annihilationism is really getting a lot of traction, which is, again, okay. I suppose it's better, like Richard started out with. It's good,
Fine, I'll
but it's
take it.
sometimes the enemy of great, I guess.
Well,
We got
FF
one. We
Bruce.
got 1.5 minutes.
Okay, well, I was just going to say FF Bruce, said, and he may be an annihilationist. Someone had told me that one time. I haven't really researched it, but he said that eternal conscious torment seems incompatible with the revealed nature of God. And so that if that is and I believe that probably is that a God who tortures is unthinkable and unlovable. So I think that's the revelation that leads to the next step. But then the next step is really getting to a place where God's energies are curative. And it's not, and maybe we can talk about this the next time, but we've all seen this horrible video of the man getting shot in the head, at point blank and in the back, and the woman, all within a couple of weeks. Regardless, I'm not taking any sides on it other than this. It was sickening. And a bullet in the head is no true mercy. I think that's the next thing to say. That what would a good God annihilate? He would annihilate evil things. He would not annihilate children. All right. He would annihilate he would rehabilitate, woo and win and rehabilitate attributes, but no evil notions, but never evil nations.
Yeah.
He doesn't destroy nations, but notions. But anyway, we can talk about that next time.
All right. Well, let's come back to this. This is a really interesting topic. So if you're enjoying it, let us know. And let's invite you back to join us for part 2 of this next week. Thanks so much for watching. Still Growing in Grace. Join me next time on Still Growing in Grace. Enjoy previous episodes by downloading our podcast at growingingrace.ca. If this show has been an encouragement to you, consider making a donation today. For our Canadian link, visit growingingrace.ca, and for our USA link, visit eschurch.com. Your donation will help us continue spreading really good news. Thank you again for tuning in to Still Growing in Grace.